Well, cool, bro.
Cool.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Only a pleasure, man. We've been trying to get this sorted out for quite a while.
Yeah.
Obviously, we wanna have a little bit of a chat about jiu-jitsu and SABJJF and all the things that are going on there. But let's maybe just start with who you are and where you fit in with the SABJJF.
Well, I started jiu-jitsu in August of 2011, proper, but I actually had my first grappling class with Richie Kwan back when Fight Fit was underground in a garage, like tiny little room. And I moved to Cape Town, got into jiu-jitsu there under Kurt George at Renzo Gracie. Had my first competition 10 days after I started. First fight was against a girl named Mira, and I managed to win. I don't know if it was through skill or just pure nerves. And then I just spent all free time I had at the jiu-jitsu gym there. Managed to get my blue belt and then moved back to Joburg and went back to Fight Fit, but the jiu-jitsu program wasn't as big as it is now. There was maybe max like 3-4 of us at a time. When Kurt told me about Dave Aguion being in Gracie Barra Glen Hazel, so I went through there, and for me at the time it just clicked a bit better. So I moved there with Dave, and then pretty much been with him since, and in this lovely gym that we are now. And this is the end of, I think, like a good 4 or 5 years of hard graft on his behalf and a whole lot of other people's. And then sadly, Dave, obviously, as you know, he had to go back to Brazil for personal reasons. And he was on the board of the SABJJF along with James, Huntley, Richie, Brendan, and Guy and Malcolm. And with Dave being in Brazil, it was a bit hard to get things going. So he nominated me, and I stepped in. And it's just a good group of guys from a couple of the biggest gyms in Joburg, at least, and some would argue the country, coming together and just trying to host professional, high quality jiu-jitsu tournaments, give back to the sport, and just try and develop it and progress it for the young guns that are coming up, basically.
Sure, man. Just a note, sorry, man. You mentioned we're here at Gracie Barra Lovo. This is going to be my new second home. There's a bit of grappling going on in the background, so if there's a couple of murmurs and squeals and so on,
live action podcast.
Don't be alarmed. Cool, man. So I always like to ask the question. You said you started back in 2011. You're now a brown belt, so it's been a 7-year journey to where you are now. What was the jiu-jitsu scene like at that time when you first started out?
Well, I mean, originally it was actually Muay Thai that I started, and there was no grappling offered at FFM, and it just happened to be one night, Morne Swanepoel, who I think he trains or has a gym out in Durban, was up and giving a seminar. And I mean, I guess you could say the hooks got in, and that was me, man. I went down a deep jiu-jitsu rabbit hole and started researching and found out we had Penny Thomas, ADCC world champion, and she was a huge star. And I was moving to Cape Town, and one of the first things I did was Google jiu-jitsu, and I found Renzo Gracie. And I mean, at the time there couldn't have been more than 60, 70 guys at the gym overall, and that probably included the kids. And there were not even a black belt, 1 or 2 brown belts, 5 purple belts, and then a ton of blue and white belts. So it was still very, very small. All the competitions were sort of in-house competitions, and no one did these traveling rolling mats like we have now. And it was still very cliquey. Everyone kept to their gym and didn't want to move. I suppose there's still some of that around today. I don't think that will ever go around, but definitely back then it was far more. You felt it a lot more, and I mean, to see where the sport's gone now, where you're having like close to 200 people enter a competition, and at the time I don't think there were more than 200 people grappling. I'd say properly, like pursuing it as a hobby. So it's been awesome to see the growth, and to be a part of it has also just been an absolute privilege.
Sure, man. Obviously, SABJJF in South Africa is the leading force behind the competition side, and a massive part in the growth of the sport. So just give us a bit of insight into what it is that SABJJF does and what are you guys actually trying to achieve as an organization?
So, we are the biggest. I think there have been lots of attempts in the past to do it, and there are other people that are playing a vital role. But we just put all our differences aside and came together and said, listen, we're all friends off the mat. We all train at different gyms. Let's put something together. And right now we're still in our infant stages, but I'm sure you must have seen the update that we've got provisional acceptance from MASA, which will hopefully soon turn into a full membership, and then we'll be able to hand out colors and award colors and just get a bit more the sport a bit more legitimate.
Just on this, sorry, Jamie. That was one of the big points, was the acceptance into MMA SA. What does that mean for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in South Africa?
Well, it means that we'll have a membership to Martial Arts South Africa, which is MASA, and them as a governing body, it gives us, they grant us the powers that we'll have to be a recognized federation. Instead of just a bunch of guys running a federation as a business, sort of like what we're doing now, but also
Sure.
The IBJJF is a good example, and this isn't about us getting together and trying to monopolize and make money off of it. It's not the case at all. We're doing it for the next crop, like a little Mila we have at our gym, all 7 years old. We want her, by the time she gets to 15, 16, 17, she can get colors throughout the age groups, and go on to represent, and develop the sport for athletes, get potential sponsors, and my fellow members, James and Huntley and Richie and the like, have all done a lot of work behind the scenes, getting it this far. And like I said, there have been meetings like trying to get this happen for years, and through various factors, the ignorance as to what exactly Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was compared to the more traditional Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. I think some greed, people seeing that they could capitalize on it, and it's, they wanted to tag. It was wrestling, was the big one, obviously, and then
Sure.
it was competing. So it's finally getting there. It's tortoise in the hare type of scenario. Slowly wins the race, but as long as we just keep true to what we're trying to do, host good competitions, and basically just give the athletes a taste of what it would be like overseas. Fortunately, most of us have competed overseas from the board, and we want that to be the standard here, because eventually when we do have guys going overseas, they can't be this huge jump. They need to go there and be strict with the weigh-ins, be strict with their gis, be strict and know the rules, and to get that going here sooner rather than later is the aim, really.
Sure. And just we spoke about getting South African colors, and obviously it's a future thing. You guys are trying to aim for the development going forward. I mean, obviously what's happening now is happening. The sport is growing massively. But like you said, like Mila from this gym, you're trying to get that generation a bigger stepping stone into competing internationally. Is national colors something that's quite common overseas? Is it something that happens quite a bit, or will it be something more unique to SA?
Well, I mean, the USA, you've got the USA Jiu-Jitsu team, that they get colors. In the UAE, it's the national sport, The Brazilian nationals is kind of like their sport. I might be wrong in saying that they do get officially recognized colors, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. I think it's a hobby sport. It's developing into a more recognized sport, but it's not a judo, a karate, a kung fu or something that has been around and recognized for years and years, and
Sure.
part of the establishment. This is sort of the new kid on the block sort of taking over. And it just gives it more credibility. If you're going and fighting overseas, and eventually the dream would be to get the athletes sponsored, and the federation would pay. But for now, if you're going to go represent your country overseas, you should be recognized and it should be acknowledged, instead of just on a Facebook post. You should have some proper validation from the higher ups, and where that will go to, who knows? But hopefully the same. I think there's a cap on where jiu-jitsu will go. I don't think it will be in the Olympics. I think
that was the next question coming your way.
I don't think. I think there's too much combat with judo. It's too similar. Judo, they've cut the ground time in the Olympics to focus more on the stand-up, I just don't see the IOC or anyone getting it that far. And hey, if it does, more power to it. I won't complain. But it's as long as it's recognized and it's not just brushed under the rug. But it's not going to get Olympic status, at least not for. At least I'll be retired by then. So let me put it like that. But yeah, that's my personal opinion. I know there are people behind the scenes looking to get it to the Olympics.
Sure.
And we've got the African national champs happening. You've got the Worlds. You've got Abu Dhabi Worlds. There's a whole host of competitions that, even though they're not necessarily Olympic level events, but there's still huge respect and credibility to winning them. ADCC is an example.
What happened to the African qualifiers for ADCC?
Man, I think that was just a bit before my time, but from what I do know, it wasn't worth the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
Sure.
You're not getting even though we had Mark Robinson who won ADCC, the level just wasn't there, and I think for all that effort to put in, and excuse me if I step on some toes, but a subpar level grappler,
sure.
At least back then, I think it just wasn't feasible for them. Hopefully it makes a comeback.
Do you think we have the kind of quality of guys to go and compete in ADCC now?
Excuse me. Yeah, I think we do. I think there's a select few that could do it, but that how many guys are training jiu-jitsu full time?
Yeah.
I understand a lot of the guys are doing 5-6 days a week, maybe even a couple double sessions in the height of competition season. But how many guys are waking up, putting on the gi or the no gi spats or whatever, stepping on the mat, and that's all they're doing 24/7, 7 days a week? That is the difference. And here it's nice maybe you get a sponsorship, you get a gi, but it's not going to feed you. It's not, maybe Nutritech or someone hooks you up with a Herbalife supplement or whatever, but hopefully not. But it's that's the difference.
Sure.
And I think through the structures that we're trying to get in place and getting a kid like Mila, for example, I mean, she's a Pan-American kids champion. That's not by accident.
Yeah.
And it speaks volumes that the level of coaching that she's getting here is not far off from what's happening in the headquarters in Irvine in California. But I think we've got some talented kids. You see it at the SABJJF comp. So there's that one kid, Stain DeLange from Archer Suave. Man, that kid's good. 16 years old, and he's just tying oaks up and learning, just getting better and better and better.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. I remember the first competition I went to, and I saw him, and I was like, you can see visibly the kid's young, but he's doing things that
man,
I didn't even know some of those things were possible when I got there.
And doing it with a stone cold killer face, like just this like smile, and he's just, and even if I think it was the last comp, BK from GBE, Gracie Barra Brown Belt beat him, but the oak just smiled, got off the mat, got back on, and I think won his next fight, and it's just. He's there's a dude who, with proper training and if with the drive, to do it, you train. It's a thankless sport. It's you leave with a lot more injuries and costs than you do when you started.
No worries.
But yeah, I'd hope so. I think everyone, if you ask them, would hope it would be them.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to come from a young kid from one of these gyms.
Sure. The next generation is something we speak about quite a lot. You're obviously part of a next generation, which would be in time the next generation of black belts. What have you seen and what do you think will be different by the time you get to a black belt in South African Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? Obviously, there's been this leap. I mean, I only came into Jiu-Jitsu probably about 3 years ago. And I've seen so much change already, you know what I mean? And if you're really looking for the change, you'll find it. Yeah. And that's how it is. So, like, what do you see the next evolution for South Africans?
Well, I think we're on the cusp of a very exciting time because a lot of the guys at Brown Belt from not only this gym, but all the various other gyms, not just in Joburg, across the country, they're getting close to black belt. Definitely in the next 1-2 years we should have a new crop of black belts, and what's exciting about that is a lot of those guys are competitors, and they're not coaches, so they're not worrying about coaching their team, so that will see them entering black belt divisions. And for the first time, we could have maybe 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 black belts entered in a division, which is crazy, man. I mean, now we're lucky. I think I've only ever seen maybe 4 fights between 2 black belts in this country. And Dave, our coach, is from Brazil, so not even homegrown black belts, you know. I mean, we've got 3 at our gym, and a crop of about 7 or 8 brown belts that in the next 2 years, with the correct training and no funny business, should be black belts, and they all compete, which is exciting. And you know, it's finally the top the bottom heavy structure is starting to level out. You know, it's nice to see gyms where you look at the lineup and it's not just white, couple blues, 1 purple, 1 brown, and then your instructor. So now you could see a full mat spectrum, a full belt spectrum on the mat.
Yeah, I think that's also the natural course of the evolution, because guys that have been like, as the competition grows, guys grow with the competition. So even like someone like myself started competing as a white belt, but now I'm into like a whole new world as a blue belt, and there's 1 or 2 guys in my division, but you can see there's a couple of guys on the cusp of making blue belt, and those guys are going to come up, and so it keeps filling up quite nicely, you know. And it's quite nice because realistically there's a pool of guys that are competing, big or small, doesn't matter how you look at it. But those guys are growing with the competitions as well. So the competitions, the level's getting higher. You know, as guys do more and more. The only way to get better competing is to compete more. That's the way. That's the way I see it. You know, I know my first competition, I was off my feet in a guillotine. You know, that's just how it goes. You know, and you got to keep going to get better. 100%. So it's one of those things, and it's eventually going to get to this whole full spectrum. And that's what I'm trying to get at is we don't see enough black belts competing here for whatever reason. Yeah. I'm sure they all have their own reasons, but I sometimes feel quite denied that privilege to see that happening. You know what I mean? Like, because you can watch your division and you can watch your mates and from your gym and mates from other gyms and stuff, and you can see the differences in styles and teaching styles and approaches to the whole thing, but you never get to see that insane high caliber of black belts. Look, it does happen once in a while, but it's
I mean, in any jiu-jitsu competition, I mean, the world's just passed now. The blue ribbon event is the black belt brackets with the absolute, you know, and I can't speak for any of the black belts, and you know, some are old, some, you know, maybe competing's not their thing. I'm of the belief that you should at least compete once, and at least every so often as a black belt, just to test yourself. Listen, if you're old and I'm not saying go get in there with a youngster who's like 21 and jacked up on life, and you know, that's not what I'm saying. But you know, we had the Abu Dhabi trials in the beginning of the year at the Italian club, and the Angolans brought a huge team. They got a very, very good jiu-jitsu program there, and a lot of their black belts were older guys. Like, you know, these are not youngsters 21, 22 years old, and they were all competing, and they were competing against the youngster guy. I just don't see why. You know, we just been so restricted from seeing our black belts fight. But it's very exciting that in the next year or two we should have big divisions, which will also be nice. That you know, sometimes at these comps you end up fighting your mates 2-3 fights, and you're only fighting your friends. And the more people are into it, the bigger the compete. And I think with more black belts competing, it will bring more interest. So the numbers go up.
100%. I think it's kind of like a big school match day kind of thing, you know, where like all the kids sides play and then everyone goes to watch like the first team. You know, it's kind of the same thing. That's the only thing for me that I see missing in local competitions is that pinnacle event, you know, where everybody sticks around to see that fight. I mean, it often happens where a fight happens in a bracket, everyone's like, shit, I need to see that. You know what I mean? That does happen. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, like, you know, if you had like even 4 black belts competing right at the pinnacle of the day, I think everyone would stick around. You know, other people might even come to watch that. You know, just to kind of see that.
It's definitely something we're aiming to push. You know, and at the end of the day, competing's hard. You know, and it's extra hard when you're working a 9 to 5, and you know, you've got kids or you've got whatever else going on, and then to come. You know, there's a difference between the Monday night 7 o'clock. Advanced class and the Tuesday night 7 o'clock competition class. You're broken when you're finished. Now you're doing that, at least at our gym we got 3 a week when it's deep in competition season. By Sunday you're so buggered you can't move. and then you need to get up on Monday, and you don't want to miss because you got the competition, and then it's comp training, and it's tough. It's hard. I mean, we've had, I think, 3-4 big injuries at our gym alone in the last year. Josh, myself, Uncle Raj, and I'm missing the fourth one, but and those were all through comp training.
Sure.
And it's so we hope the guys will train smarter and not smarter, but just through the training get more numbers to the comps, and then I mean, we want this thing to be big. We've got a big competition, the African National Champs, being held here next year, on behalf of the SJ Sport Jiu-Jitsu International Federation.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful though.
There's so many, IBJJ, JJJ, and the SABJJF is hosting that here, and James was just there at the one in Mauritius a couple months ago, and I think they got through about 400 or 500 competitors, gi and no gi, in one day. I mean, that's efficiency. That's impressive.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking to do. And I don't think we're far off. I think with the team and the guys involved, and a lot of the gyms seem to be buying into what we're doing. We mentioned politics a bit earlier. It's always a thing when there's a core group of guys doing something and then asking for money or asking for your support or whatever, when you might not necessarily be within that group. But I think the guys on the board and everything we're doing, everyone can see that we're not shysters. We're not here to. There's no money in jiu-jitsu, so we're in the wrong bloody business if that's what we're trying to do.
Sure, it's a massively passionate business, and there's very little profit to be made, and I think everyone understands that. And it is a difficult situation because you're trying to get as many people to compete, and you said politics. I think a lot of people are like worried about competing. They're worried about putting themselves out there, and it's something like, I came from another gym before where the guys are very anti-competition, and I just spoke to a guy last week who's changed gyms because he's got to the same feeling I think that I was at, and like there's more out there, and like you said, absolutely, I think everybody should compete. The person who got me into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu said to me, have you competed? And I was still like, what are you talking about, man? I'm competed once, And he's like, you got to go do it, man. You got to understand what's happening, And it's not like an ego check or a reality check or anything like that. It's kind of just like, okay, I'm good at this sort of thing in Jiu-Jitsu, but put me in a stressful situation. It's very different.
It's a huge test of. You essentially you're learning the same things. You're both learning what a half guard is, what a full guard is, but it's who can apply it better. And
100%.
I mean, I still get nervous to this day of competing. My heart goes through the roof. I hate it. Like I don't enjoy it. But as soon as it tap hands in the first fight, it's all gone, and then it's just. It's all fun. I hate that, you win or you learn. There's no losing. You do lose, and losing sucks. You lose. Losing sucks. And like you can learn from your losses, but you don't just write them off. I mean, I've had personal comps where I've been at the peak of my preparation, like everything was on point, everything, and lost the first match stupidly, or like just failed, and I didn't go, oh well, I learned today. Yes, I learned, but I lost, and it sucked because I was ready. I had no excuses. And I think, it's a team sport in that I need you to train with. I can't go and compete without training with my team. But when you're alone there, man, it gets nervous. And I just say I am a full advocate of compete at least once. You learn a lot about yourself in those situations. And if you don't dig it, sweet. Yeah. But hopefully a lot more people will get the
I think that's quite important. I don't think competing's for everyone because, like you said, dealing with those nerves can be they can be hectic. You know what I mean? And it's especially when you've got like other things going on in your life, like work and home and all of that stuff. Like it does get hectic. But I think that's also dealing with those nerves is also part of it. You know what I mean? To have that feeling like like it's a lot of raw emotion, and I think it's really good for you. And I think it's good for people to put themselves in that situation and see how they fare and see how they come out.
100%.
Even besides the jiu-jitsu stuff, it's a good place to put yourself into, a good situation to put yourself into, like, and see how you react, see how your mind reacts, how your body reacts, how much information you've been able to retain over however long, you're good at certain things at jiu-jitsu, and there's places you like to go, but there's no guarantee that that's going to happen, you know what I mean? And you've got to kind of like
100%.
You've got to adapt and adjust, and I think that's what the competition, even besides the jiu-jitsu, it's a massive life lesson in a way. 100%. You know what I mean? So
it brings back, when you start jiu-jitsu, you're nervous because you suck so badly, and everything you do is wrong. Your body wants to go one way, but your mind's telling you the other way, and you suck, and it's nervous because you as a white belt, and you see the brown belts want to roll with you, and you're nervous, and then you finally get the hook of things, and you're like, okay, sweet, I kind of know what I'm doing. Let me compete. And then it just floods back that you're like, oh shit, actually I don't know what I'm doing. This guy's been training 2 weeks longer than me. That makes him some type of savant and better. And it's I think that's also what, that people get comfortable, and then you throw into this, and you got your coaches yelling, grab here, and you're like, fuck, I don't know what to do. And I think that also can put people off a little bit, is that reemergence of that initial nerves, because you think you've conquered it. You know, you can walk into the gym not like head low. You walk in like, hey, how's it, man? Tie your belt properly. You're not doing like a random knot, and then you've got to go and break that whole cycle and be nervous and sucky again. I think that holds people back. But if you do that and you get through it, man, that feeling afterwards, win, lose, whatever, just conquering that little demon is a huge adrenaline spike.
Sure, and I think it's the funniest thing about competition, especially here, is that if you compete long enough, eventually you're gonna win. Yeah. You know what I mean? And there's like, it's a very cool feeling. You know what I mean? Regardless of how you win, how many fights you've had, it's an achievement. You know what I mean? Because you've had to beat somebody. You know what I mean? And you had to start being absolutely fucking useless at something. Yeah. To the point where you've actually beaten somebody else in a live competition. You know what I mean? Like, that is going to happen. You will win.
Eventually.
You know what I mean? You will get on a podium, and you will get better. And I think every time will get better for you, man. And I think, like, my whole thing was last year setting a goal just to get onto a podium, you know what I mean? And then take it from there and, see how it goes. And it was hard, you know what I mean? Like, the first time I got on the podium, Jesus, bro, there was like dudes just stacked in my division. It was just fights coming. I was still like playing on my phone. They were calling me back for the final. I couldn't even walk there, you know, but you had to fight. I think I probably vomited in my mouth and had to swallow it. You know what I mean? But you got to deal with all of these things. And it's really fucking cool. And it's such a big sense of achievement to win at something so incredibly difficult, because jiu-jitsu is incredibly difficult. But that's the reality of it, you know. And so, like, if anybody's listening on the fence trying to decide whether they should compete, just go and do it, man. I mean, like, I think a lot of people have this weird misconception that if they lose, there's going to be this crowd of people laughing at them, or, you know, that's a weird one, because I think people do honestly feel like that, and it's so far away from the truth. I think, like, losing in jiu-jitsu, you actually like the bigger winner, because everybody wants to come and like console you and like tell you know, like, there was this, there was that, and obviously you choose what you do with that information. I mean, like, I knew there were mistakes. I remember DJ saying to me, but you should have done this, and this, and I was like, I know that, but like, you know, that's part of it. It's just dealing with it.
100%. And you know, it's the whole competing thing is, like you said, you think if you lose, you'll let the gym down, and man, you lose more times than you win. You know, I think it was like Keenan Cornelius, who only started winning after like purple belt. He lost everything until then. Now imagine he gave up. So I'm with you. If you're on the fence about competing, do it once, and then if you don't do it, don't dig it again. But it will definitely awaken something in you, and when you get that first win, and that the skills you know are better than the skills someone else knows, there's that little sort of narcissistic, like, okay, sweet.
It is, man. I mean, everybody wants to like see like a tangible piece of achievement, you know, and that's the reality. And I think that's one of the biggest things with jiu-jitsu, is like this tangible acceptance of knowledge, you know what I mean? Like, you get a white belt that's blank, and then you get a stripe, and then you get another stripe, and then you get another stripe. It's all like validation, you know, like, it's just constant validation. The only difference is, like, it's real validation because you take so long and have to work so fucking hard to get that little piece of white stripe around your belt, you know what I mean?
And it means nothing to anybody else except the people that know. And it's
you go home, I got a stripe, and it's like, cool, bro, dishes are waiting, bro, get on it.
Exactly. You know, and that little piece of tape can be the difference between someone coming back and not coming back, you know, because you're so focused on that, like, am I shrimping right, am I doing this, that you don't actually realize what you're getting right, you know. And it's a beautiful sport, man. It's why we do it. It's definitely changed my life for the better. Definitely cost me and the medical aid a few bob here and there, but I couldn't imagine life without it. And the friendships I've made, the gym I'm in. I mean, doing this with you through jiu-jitsu, you know, you got guys who off the mats in every gym normally wouldn't hang out together. You know, if you said, okay, you're going to hang out with this dude, you'd be like, man, you fucking crazy. I'd never hang out with that dude. And then you have this weird hobby where you all try and murder each other every night, and then you just have the respect to let go when your mate touches the mat 3 times, and you've got the brotherhood, and it's truly special, and something that I only remember in like rugby teams, and you know, like, but it's even more intimate because you're training as a team, but you're giving it all, you're on the line at the end of the day.
Sure,
you know,
100%. Just in closing the last breath, it's such a hard question for me to answer, and I always ask jiu-jitsu people to try and give me their version. If someone says to you with a blank slate, what is jiu-jitsu, how do you explain it to them?
That's a good one, and I don't want to copy Joe Rogan. If we fight, and I will. Jiu-jitsu is giving you the power through knowledge and technique to overcome the most, with dedicated practice, the most aggressive and violent attackers, man or woman, doesn't matter your size. It's a superpower. It gives you confidence. That's what I'd sell it as, a confidence drug. And you know, I'm not talking about confidence where you'll go and pick fights in the bar, because you'll learn that that's not where it's going to work. But you'll have that confidence that should that guy give you the extra push, or someone, you know, threaten your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your children, whatever, you know, you've got this sort of invisible power that you can disarm anyone pretty quickly. And that's what I'd sell it as.
Well, there you have it. Jiu-Jitsu in a nutshell. Invisible superpower by James Gemmell.
Trademark Sheriff Captain J Money.
Avenger. You left
Avenger. Erlen, sorry. Yeah.
Well, my bro, I think that's everything I kind of wanted to cover with you. I think it's nice, short, snappy, and beautiful stuff, man. And thank you for your time, bro, and for your knowledge. And just a quick one, SABJJF, where do people find it?
So you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook, South African Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Federation. We've got our own website, sabjjf.org, and we're also on Smooth Comp. If I can just punt the next competition quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Saturday, 30th of June. It's the second of our second leg of the gi competition series. The venue should be announced in the next couple of days. You can enter online at Smooth Comp, and we're about halfway through with our 6 comps of the year, so it's going to be a big one. As always, we'll try to put on the best show we can. So sign up and
yeah, sure. Just on the SABJJF shows, I mean, barring a couple of small things, they're always on time. They run efficiently. It's great facilities. I mean, great reffing. It's just an awesome thing to be part of. You know, there's lots of different other gyms, you know, and as you get to compete, you get to see people you know, or guys you rolled against once before and stuff like that. And it's got a really cool ethos about it, and it's really well run, and you guys do a massive job, and I commend you guys, and all of you guys at SABJJF, for what you're doing for the sport and the growth of the sport in South Africa. We tip our hats to that, man, and it's a great organization, and you guys are doing great things.
Thanks, man, and I know all the other guys, on behalf of all of them, thank you, and yeah, whatever we can do, we're going to do it, and get this as big as we can.
100%, bro.
Thanks, man.
Shot, bro, and that's it. And
Sweet.
we're out. We're done.
Thanks.
Peace.
Ciao. Lekker.